And the quote is, "Those who don't know history are destined to repeat it."
Nobody joins a cult. Nobody joins something they think is going to hurt them. You join a religious organization, you join a political movement, and you join with people that you really like.
I think in everything that I tell you about Jim Jones, there's going to be a paradox. Having this vision to change the world, but having this whole undercurrent of dysfunction that was underneath that vision.
Some people see a great deal of God in my body. They see Christ in me, a hope of glory.
To whomever finds this note, collect all the tapes, all the writing, all the history. The story of this movement, this action, must be examined over and over. We did not want this kind of ending. We wanted to live, to shine, to bring light to a world that is dying for a little bit of love.
I never believed in heaven in my whole life. You know, that's not the way I operated. But when I was in Guyana, when I watched the sunrise and stuff, I actually thought there was a heaven on earth. And now I can't believe in heaven anymore.
There's quiet as we leave this world. The sky is gray. People file by us slowly and take the somewhat bitter drink. Many more must drink.
I'm saddened because it didn't work out, because it just seemed so beautiful. And I'll say this about November 18th. I felt I'd lost a family. And I knew I had lost my children.
A teeny kitten sits next to me watching. A dog barks. The birds gather on the telephone wires. Let all the story of this people's temple be told.
Howdy.
Hi. Before dealing with the ugliness of Watchtower, we want to share something cute with everybody. This is Dusty. She's growing.
And she's quite the handful.
Yes. Just a hyper little puppy that wants down.
Yeah. Welcome to our home, our brand of insanity, and obviously, and like always, our shock and mock. And boy, have we got one now.
Wow. I want to thank the source so much for getting this to us, and I'm not sure if I can use their names or not, so thank you very much. This one gave me a knot in the pit of my stomach. And the reason being is because, as you've seen from the clip, this reminded me of the Jim Jones cult.
Yeah.
I mean, Watchtower has gotten to such a desperate level of fear-mongering that it's gotten creepy. This is very creepy. It sounds like this talk is in a kingdom hall because it sounds like everybody's close and you can hear kids crying and stuff. But I mean, I think this is one of those governing body assistants that has been on the JW broadcast. The voice sounds familiar, and I can't remember if it's Floden or Maleficent.
Yeah.
But it sounds like one of those guys.
So, give a listen, and we'll come back with our take on this.
I'm going to put these notes down here for a minute and just say something to you. I'd like for you to listen to this very carefully. For those of us at Bethel, we have the privilege of working with the faithful and discreet slave, the governing body. And I would like for you to know how the governing body, faithful slave, feels about the way things are right now in this system of things, the time period in which you are living. The faithful slave feels that they have fulfilled Matthew 24:14. This good news has been preached in all the inhabited earth for a witness. What does the next part of that text say after the end will come. Do you know that there are only 3 countries in the entire world where there are no witnesses today? Only 3 countries. They are Somalia, North Korea, and Afghanistan. That doesn't mean that the literature is not in those countries. There's no witnesses there. And I mentioned this yesterday to some of the friends, and they wanted to know why. And I will tell you why. Jehovah does not send his people to any environment where they will be killed. That's why there's no witnesses there. Those 2 countries bear community responsibilities. But the good news of the kingdom has been preached. Matthew 24, Luke 21, Mark 13, Revelation chapter 6, those scriptures are having their fulfillment. They're being fulfilled. So, where are you in the stream of Bible prophecy? What is the next Bible prophecy to be fulfilled? The next one. Do you know? I'm going to read it to you. Turn to Revelation. Revelation chapter 17. Verses 15 through 17. And he says to me, the waters that you saw, where the harlot is sitting, means people and crowds and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns that you saw, and the wild beast, these will hate the harlot, and will make her devastated and naked, and will eat up her fleshly parts, and will completely burn her with fire. For God put it into their hearts to carry out his thoughts, or his thought, even to carry out their one thought, by giving their kingdom to the wild beast, until the words of God will have been accomplished. The words of God will have been accomplished. The anointed, the faithful slave, is waiting for God to put this one thought in their hearts. That's the next Bible prophecy to be fulfilled. For those who know what that means, that triggers the Great Tribulation. Once that starts, all of you will be locked into where you are now. Whatever you've done, you've done. There won't be any more, oh, you know, I could have. I thought of that I might do this if I had the time. This is the time. What will you do about the time in which we are living? Be at it urgently. Be quick about it. The time left is reduced.
I found it absolutely interesting how they get to the importance of what the governing body wants them to relate, because he's obviously in the middle of a talk and he says, I'm going to put down my talk, my notes. So right there you've grabbed the absolute attention of those that are, I don't know, nodding off like most of us did, you know. But now he's got your attention. Oh my God. And you know, as Jehovah's Witnesses, we were always waiting for the governing body to come out and say when the end is going to happen. And this very craftily alludes to that, the way it was perpetrated. And don't kid yourselves for one moment, Jehovah's Witnesses. Even though he says, I'm going to put my notes aside, he's still reading a script. Don't kid yourself.
It's still part of the program. And, I mean, the way he says, listen very carefully. This is all planned ahead of time.
I have to ask, why isn't a governing body member doing this during their annual meeting?
That's taking place today.
That's taking place today, October 7th. Why isn't that earth-shaking news about Matthew 24? I mean, if you governing body members really and truly believe that Matthew 24:14 is fulfilled, you should be saying this at your annual meeting and not giving it to some other monkey's ass to do this somewhere, wherever this is taken.
Well, maybe they are.
Maybe they are.
Maybe that's going to be one of the announcements today. And
Maybe
if it is, we'll keep everybody
we'll definitely
informed.
do it. Yeah.
But there's so much packed into just this little clip. First of all, it's like he doesn't come out and say the preaching work is done. But by him saying this has been fulfilled, it's a given.
Yeah.
The preaching work is not effective. It's done. So Jehovah's Witnesses, you don't have to do any more service. No more literature carts.
And that shows the power of YouTube. Because Kim and I have been on here for 4 years plus. There were those that blazed the trail on YouTube long before Kim and I came about, already exposing what Watchtower was all about, how they have hidden things, and in particular, the child sexual abuse problem. See, Jesus said things that were done in secret will be exposed. Up until the internet, and very much in particular YouTube, those things could relatively remain hidden. Because all Watchtower had to do was disfellowship you out of the congregation, and every Jehovah Witness knows, well, you can't even talk to your family members if they're disfellowshipped. You just can't do that. So you would never be able to put yourself in a situation where you could hear and see what Watchtower was doing out of your eyesight, such as hiding the child's sexual abuse.
Well, look at what they've done with this new generation of Jehovah's Witnesses now. Since they've gotten rid of actual books, from, clear back, all they know is what happened up to 2000, because that's all available on, the website.
Yeah.
So they've trained these this new generation now. So they don't know what happened in the past. And that's what we have been doing for the past 4 years, exposing of what their history and what they taught in the past is.
And part of all of this deception is that, not too many years ago, the Watchtown Bible Tract Society would put in your annual report the number of people that were disfellowshipped out of the congregations. But in that, they would say they were disfellowshipped for immorality. So that always left the JW family member with the hope that, their son or daughter would, clean up their life and return to Jehovah. But the thing that these nail in the coffin lid is doing is it's letting everybody know that those that are getting disfellowshipped today, they're not coming back. Why? Because what Watchtower used to be able to keep silent is now being exposed. And all these people leaving, they're leaving because of what Watchtower deems as apostasy. And everybody knows that once you left the organization for being an apostate, there is no going back. But getting to this clip, I found it very interesting that they went from point A to point C, and you forgot all about point number B. And what are we talking about?
Well, before you get into that, I was going to say, do you remember a district convention, I would say at least 10 years ago, that we were sitting in, and the brother closed his Bible, set it on the podium, and he said, all of these prophecies in here have been fulfilled.
Yeah.
And Mike and I looked at each other and said, no, they haven't.
Yeah.
Same thing with this one.
Yeah, same thing with this one. And this was during one of the district convention. The brother comes out and says, brothers and sisters, there's only one more prophecy to be fulfilled. And that is the cry of peace and security, and this system's going to end. And everybody's clapping.
Yeah.
Except for Kim and I. And it's like, no, what about the King of the North? Because see, in Watchtower's theology, before this system ends, there has to be an identifiable King of the North. And even this late in date, there's still no King of the North. Because Watchtower hasn't even talked to No, see, these are God's anointed ones. These are the faithful and discreet slave. This is who the Jehovah's Witnesses get their instructions from. And I have yet to see Watchtower come out with anything new saying, we have identified the King of the North, brothers. Hold on. We're just that close.
Yeah, hold on. Because you know why they're not going to identify the king of the north
Why?
for now.
No, please
and not
do
mention
tell.
it.
Please do tell us.
Okay, now think about this. Okay, now listen, Mikey. Okay, the king of the north was, they always said, was to hold Jehovah's people captive.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, I
Who
remember
does
learning
that earth-wide?
What? Oh, wait a minute. You just heard this guy said that the preaching work is fulfilled because they're
Everywhere,
every
except
nation
for
except
3 countries.
So the Watchtown Bible Tract Society has swept the entire earth as the king of the north
and held
captive
God's people,
Christ's disciples in this Watchtower Bible Cult Society. You've entrapped God's people through your bullshit. Maybe you are the king of the north. That's a good point.
I don't know. It could be Russia. It could be North Korea. The thing is,
could be the Watchtower and Babel Cult Society too.
well, the thing is we're on fire today. I just want to mention we got our tat shirts on and a whole 2 pots of coffee, so we're wired this morning.
Yeah, we didn't need no M&Ms to do this one. 2 pots of coffee is more than enough to get us fired up.
But that's the point we're trying to make. They have bypassed step B. And he goes, you notice he went to Revelation and how they're just waiting now for the governments to turn on Babylon the Great, the world empire, false religion, and they're next. And that is the start of the Great Tribulation.
See, now, let's remember what he said. He said, you brothers, stay right here. So I'm going to read from their God's Kingdom Rules, chapter 21. Thank you, Jerry Jones, for reminding us that this was here, because we have some other information that Kim's going to read also. Because we want you Jehovah's Witnesses to realize what's going on here. They're jumping from point A, the end of the kingdom preaching work, right to the destruction of Babylon the Great. But you've become so comfortably numb, you forget about point B. Page 230, paragraph 19, under the chapter, let me flip back to the chapter, God's kingdom removes its enemies.
Number 21.
Paragraph 19, under the subheading, How to Prepare Ourselves. How can we prepare ourselves for the earth-shaking events that are to come? The Watchtower stated some years ago, survival will depend on obedience. Well, you heard what this knucklehead brother said. You need to sit right here, brothers. Be obedient. Why is that so? The answer is found in a warning from Jehovah to the captive Jews living in ancient Babylon. Jehovah foretold that Babylon would be conquered. But what were God's people to do to prepare themselves for that event? Jehovah stated, Go, my people, enter into your inner rooms. Maybe that should be translated to some bunker basement at some JW's home. But I digress. And shut your doors behind you. Now, when you go back and watch that bunker video, don't forget to lock the doors, because it appears that military force that went in just went into a door that was unlocked. So please, don't forget to lock those doors when you hide in your little inner rooms.
Do you really think that little door can hold back a battering ram?
No. Hey, Watchtower couldn't even hold us back by going after our YouTube channel by, overemphasizing the strikes. So, but we digress again. Hide yourselves for a brief moment until the wrath has passed by. Note the verbs in this verse. Go, enter, shut, hide. All are the imperative mood. They are commands. The Jews who heeded those commands would have stayed in their houses, away from the conquering soldiers out in the street. But nothing shows in those scriptures that the conquering soldiers busted into the little bunkers that they were hiding in. No, but yet in the modern day fulfillment, you see those conquering armies busting into the bunkers. But I digress again. Hence, their survival depended on obeying Jehovah's instructions. Paragraph 20. What is the lesson for us? As in the case of those ancient servants of God, our survival of coming events will depend on our obedience to Jehovah's instructions. Such instructions come to us through the congregation arrangement. In other words, it comes from the same very elders that are disfellowshipping you people for just having mere questions.
Are these the same elders that don't know the meaning of Jesus being the mediator in the Bible?
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say. You took the words right out of my mouth, dear. Wonderful. See, we're on the same page, guys. See, we know this bullshit. Forward, backwards, upside down, inverted.
Inside out.
We know the bullshit. So anyhow, here it goes on. Therefore, we want to develop heartfelt obedience to the guidance we are receiving. If we do so today, we will be more inclined to obey willingly in the future and thus receive the protection from our Father Jehovah and our King Jesus. The divine protection will allow us to witness firsthand how God's kingdom will completely remove its enemies. What an unforgettable event that will be. Well, Watchtown Bible Cult Society, you know what an unforgettable event is? Every time we do one of these nails in a coffin. Because as I stated, people are waking up to your bullshit. The government is not going to have any Watchtown Bible Cult Society to turn on because you people are being dissolved half congregations at a time. And in fact, even qualify that, we got another event, another news item that we would love to share with you people.
Yeah, I think this is a good time. We were going to save this for our next nail and coffin, but this is a good time to bring this out because this is why Watchtower is so desperate. There's no indication, that the governments are about to turn on all religion.
Well, especially since, the Watchtower prophecy includes the cry for peace and security, and there has been no, and I mean zero, discernibility news where the governments are crying peace and security. It's just not happening.
Sorry for the background noise. Dusty's tearing up a cardboard box. Lisa's keeping her busy. I'm sorry, sweetie. I forgot to write who sent me this on here. But they say, wow, glad you are back. I have been with you since the beginning. Your Freemason video was awesome. I have more good news, or news to me from Canada. There are 10 Kingdom Halls for sale. Dartmouth, NS, Prinebrook, NS, Burlington, Ontario, Aylmer, Quebec, Victoria, British Columbia. You're good at pronouncing names. Etobicoke.
Etobicoke, yeah.
Ontario, Vancouver, BC, Chatham Township, Ontario, Fort McMurray, Alberta, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. This affects 43 congregations.
There's going to be nothing left for the governments to turn on, Watchtower.
Thank you, sweetie. This is awesome news. So 10 Kingdom Halls are for sale, and this is going to affect 43 congregations. And it made me wonder if this isn't that whole part that didn't have any regional conventions this summer. Now, before we go on, I want to just read just a couple of things here. This would be considered old light, from the Watchtower Bond volumes.
And this still has to do with the cry of peace and security, right?
Yeah. When you do Peace of Security in the Watchtower CD-ROM, oh my goodness. I mean, thousands and thousands of quotes come up. So it was very difficult, trying to go through as many as I could, as quick as I could to find the best quotes. But this is the 1980 Watchtower, May 15th, page 24. And it's got a picture of the harlot sitting on the beast.
With the UN building in the background.
Is this the same UN that the Jehovah's Witness, or the Watchtower was part of and still is in Europe?
Well, yeah, but you have to remember why the Watchtower joined the UN, so they could get a library card.
Keep an eye.
Wink, 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 so you can get a library card.
Well, don't forget what Cousin Elder told you, to
Richard
keep an
said.
eye on what was going on in the world. So they joined the United Nations, to keep an eye on what's going on in the world. Maybe this is how they know the preaching work's done.
Yeah, well, but see, did you see the art of deception, illusion?
Yeah. So anyway, paragraph 11. At the coming contest of the gods, Jehovah will not use his greater Cyrus, Jesus Christ. Let that sink in.
Let that sink in before we read any further.
I thought that's who was at the forefront of this.
But isn't Jesus King of Kings and Lord of Lords?
And all authority was given.
All authority was given to him.
Okay. Jehovah will not use his greater Cyrus, Jesus Christ, visibly for overthrowing Babylon the Great.
Visibly, but yet the scriptures say that every eye will see him, and this is easy to understand because when you take a look at the recent shooting in Las Vegas, within one 24-hour period, the entire world saw what was going on and what happened in Las Vegas. So in one day, the world is very much capable of seeing Jesus visibly do this.
Yeah. Well, I was just talking to the mailman, and he said now they're saying that there was someone in the crowd shooting too.
Oh, wow.
So the conspiracy theories are bound.
They just keep going.
So they're going to explain what they mean by that statement.
Oh, Watchtower, please do explain.
Yeah. He will let the visible representatives of the eighth world power of Bible history act aggressively against Babylon the Great. That latest world power is the agency that worldly nations have devised and used since 1919 in trying to preserve world peace and security, now the United Nations. The same United Nations that they are members
became
of.
members of. Yeah, absolutely.
This man-made institution has at present behind it a congregation of 152 nations. It is caricatured as a scarlet-colored wild beast with 7 heads and 10 horns atop. And then it goes into Revelation talking about the 8th king and Armageddon. So that is their, I thought that was interesting. It really didn't have anything to do with the cry of peace and security, but I thought it was interesting because he does mention that this is what they're waiting for next, is the United Nations to. So if they're part of the United Nations, then does that mean you're going to be going after religion?
Well,
who knows?
Who knows what,
Too many questions.
Who knows what the King of the North is going to do, when they lose control of all of Christ's people. The ones that Christ died for, the ones that Christ spilled his blood for, the ones that Christ gave us our freedom through grace and not works. Here comes this cult recaptivating everybody into the concept of, well, you must work for your salvation. Because after all, if you can't preach and you can't go to the meetings, you know what that means. You'll die at Armageddon. The words are right there, Jehovah's Witnesses. This is an organization that is trying to get into this kingdom of Christ through works and not grace. That's how you've been misled from the chastity and the sincerity that is the Christ.
Now, I have a 1973 book here. Many of you old-timers may remember this. True Peace and Security, from what source? 1973. On page 88, they have a subheading, This Generation Will By No Means Pass Away.
Wait. Now, what generation is that? Is that the generation of 1914, or is that the overlapping generation of 2003, 2004, whenever they come up with that nonsense?
Well, since they explained what that generation is, you want me to just read it real quick?
Oh, please do. Yeah, because,
I know it has
we were
really nothing
indoctrinated with this.
Well, I know it really doesn't have anything to do with what I was about to read about, the time and the end. But since Mikey wants me to read this, I'll just tell him what they tell. This generation will by no means pass away until all these things occur. All what things? All the various features of the sign about which he was speaking, as well as the great tribulation, which he had also mentioned. For these things to take place within a generation would mean that persons who were on hand to observe what happened in 1914 CE at the beginning of the conclusion of the system of things would still have to be alive at the end of this period when the great tribulation strikes. Those who remember the events of 1914 are getting up in years now. Many of their numbers have already died. But Jesus assures us Jesus assures us, within this generation, before they have all died, destruction of this wicked system of things will come. So does that answer your question?
Well, it does, but it still doesn't answer the question how they get the governing body to feel that the preaching work is completed in Matthew 24:14 and go right to Revelation chapter 17, and they completely will not qualify, when this cry of peace and security actually happened.
Well, with point B, that's the paragraph I was going to read in here.
Oh, please, because I obviously missed that when I studied this.
Page 89.
Because, keep in mind, when we studied this, we were comfortably numb too.
Page 89. Paragraph 30. There is yet one more definite event.
Oh no. They did not qualify by using the word definite, did they? I mean, in light of what you all heard, there wasn't any definite point B in this. The way it went from point A to point C without no definite clarification to point B. But yet here they're saying there would be definite?
Well, I find it interesting that here in this 1973 book, it's a definite event, and yet this knucklehead completely bypasses it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is yet one more definite event to come that serves as an unmistakable signal that world destruction is imminent. This... You're going to make me start laughing.
I'm sorry. All right.
This signal was pointed to by the Apostle Paul when he wrote, Jehovah's day is coming exactly as a thief in the night. Whenever it is that they are saying peace and security, then sudden destruction is to be instantly upon them, ... and they will by no means escape. 1 Thessalonians 5, 2, and 3.
Do you people understand why Kim and I can come out and mock the living crap out of this stuff? Because you hear the fear-mongering. They're not willing to qualify that cry for peace and security because it's a definite cry. You'll definitely be able to see it. There is no discernible cry for peace and security, but yet these guys are making these Jehovah's Witnesses that are still comfortably numb, those that still find it necessary to sit in a kingdom hall because Jehovah's day is imminent, and he's gone from point A, Matthew 24:14. Now keep in mind, these are words he is coming off as if he is speaking for the governing body himself. He puts down his notes, and now he's just grabbed your attention. And in any of that, he never talks about that cry for peace and security. Do you see how these guys have mastered the art of deception? And they can do this to you, Jehovah's Witnesses. I've said this before, and I'll shout it out here. You don't know the Bible. Again, whether it's God's word or not, it has a distinct storyline. Watchtower, for over 100 years, has been bullshitting all of us by veering from that storyline because we didn't take time to learn the storyline ourselves.
Yeah, but I find it interesting that now we have mentioned that just a month or two ago, the United Nations had an International Day of Peace and Safety. What a perfect opportunity. He could have mentioned that, saying, here was our Declaration of Peace and Safety, we think.
But they're not going to fall for that again because they did that, back in 1986, I think it was, yeah.
The International Year of Peace and Security.
And all the Jehovah's Witnesses will say, okay, this is it. This is it. That new system is just around the corner. And what are we now, how many years away from that now? And all of those Jehovah's Witnesses, us included.
31 years?
Yeah, we're still sitting disappointed.
Yeah. At least 30 years.
30 years. 30.
Yeah, because Shiloh was born in 83,
years,
so it was 86.
Yeah, exactly. So, Jehovah's Witnesses, you're only going to be able to swallow this bullshit for so long before you begin to realize you have to regurgitate it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Changing the subject, now that we're done with that, it's like, wow. But I just wanted to mention real quick that this was really creepy. It gave me the heebie-jeebies, and not in the pit of my stomach. And not that I feared Armageddon or the start of the Great Tribulation, because I don't. But just the fact that I could picture, our mom sitting in the audience, and this was so similar to what Jim Jones told his people right before they drank that Kool-Aid.
The government's coming after us.
And I will say that this talk scared the hell out of me, because if they're starting to do this desperate of a fear-mongering, wow. How many more are going to be committing suicide because they don't feel that they're going to survive, that they're not doing enough for Jehovah and the organization?
It's really going to play heavy on the minds of our friends and family that are still inside a Watchtower. I don't know if we'll really change the subject or not, but I just want to add to that.
I was about to.
Yeah, I was going to add to that for just a moment, because I thought about something earlier this morning. I wrote down a few notes, but I didn't write this down. What you Jehovah's Witnesses have to really identify here is that you are not dealing with a religion. You are dealing with a publishing company.
Corporation.
A corporation. Its power is in Pennsylvania, and the puppets are in New York. Now, there are many ways to commit suicide. You could put a gun to your head. You could put a rope around your neck. You could jump off a building. There are many ways to do it. But what's happening to Watchtower is they are committing corporate suicide. And they've been doing this for many, many decades. It's just been hidden from us. What's been hidden from us is the child sexual abuse that is opened a can of whoop ass on the Watchtower Bible Cult Society. Do not kid yourselves for one moment. This is a corporation. This is a publishing company that is hidden behind the mask of a religion. If you don't think so, start doing some research. Go back to the days of Charles Taze Russell when he had shareholders meetings. Now, and you could find it.
It's in the Watchtower. They would print it in the Watchtower. They would print it in
the Watchtower. They sold shares of this publishing company at $10 a share. Russell had 51 shares. That gave him the controlling voice of this corporation.
51%.
51%, excuse me. So don't kid yourselves for one moment. What's been happening and what you're seeing now is the result of this organization committing suicide.
And what makes it even more insidious is, since it is a religion, or a corporation posing as a religion, which stirs up emotions. And this is what Jim Jones did.
Yeah.
But you also see a self-destructive cult, a doomsday cult. So when you get a doomsday cult along with a corporation that is going down the tubes.
Oh, wow.
It is epic failure.
You have got the recipe for something that I feel that this earth has never experienced before, because like Kim said, you've got a doomsday cult entangled with a publishing company that is going under. And that's why you see the Kingdom Halls being sold. That's why they are getting rid of all of their equipment that they were using for building all these Kingdom Halls.
Yeah, and I want to share with everybody some of the emails and phone calls that we have had lately. There are several that are still, stuck having to go because of friends and family. They're stuck, in the cult still, but they're fully awake. They have expressed feelings that they know something is up. They know something is coming, and they're asking us, do we know anything? Do you get this feeling? And I've been telling everybody, yes, we are. There just has this general feeling that there's something coming. Their desperation is getting worse and worse. Them going after our YouTube channel, that's just one little tiny drop in a bucket. But the way they're going after all of the apostates and doing these witch hunts and stuff, and it just appears by the talks and what the elders are saying that I mean, there is something coming. And we don't know, we haven't heard anything from the annual meeting that is today yet. Now, something else of a lot of emails and phone calls I want to share with everyone. We always get a lot of those leaving, asking, I'm just waking up, what do I do to, get rid of that indoctrination? I want to talk to my family. How do I get them to leave? How do I wake up my family? How do I help those who are just waking up and wanting to leave?
And the first thing you have to recognize is there is no magic pill.
Unfortunately.
What might work for me won't work for this beautiful woman. It may not work for her mother. But over the years, we have been able to identify many different things, such as the UN debacle, hiding the child abuse,
misquotes, subliminal images,
taking things out of context, all of those things. There is no one magic pill. And the biggest thing is that you know your family members than we do. So we cannot sit here and write a book that gives you the, end all, the be all solution to this problem.
But we do have a really good, he has done a wonderful write-up and, of how to leave, and I'll just go through this a little bit. This is on jwfacts.com. Now, we all use this website. Paul Grundy has done a wonderful job on this website. Well, he has a section here, helping someone leave. And this is really good. And we, I always recommend this to people, is he goes through some of the basics, directed by Holy Spirit, unique doctrines, techniques. And he has some very good suggestions. The risk you take in talking to your family, that is a biggie.
That's a big one.
Because you have to weigh, is it worth the risk, of being shunned or waking them up? So like I said, this is a really good, where else, and then a summary. And then he's got links in here, further reading. And like I said, I'm going to put the link to this down below, because he's got a lot of good information in here on helping those leaving and those of you who want to talk to your family members and to wake them up.
Yes. And after reading that, you just have to recognize that there is a risk. Now, for Kim and I, when we first started discovering this, we kind of looked at each other simultaneously, especially when we, did the thing about the cross. We kind of looked at each other and said, we're getting disfellowshipped. From my perspective, leaving my mother behind was well worth my own personal mental sanity. I have no problem leaving my mother behind, because what matters more to me, and not everybody feels this way, is my own self-worth in my own mind. Because I remembered Christ's words that if we leave our family for the sake of Christ, we will get 100 times more of this back. And you friends in this XJW YouTube community, whether you believe it or not, you are the direct fulfillment of that scripture, because many of you have welcomed us into your life. As much as Kim and I have extended ourselves to help you, you guys have done the same things to us. So
you help us in return.
I have not felt any loss of my mother still inside a Watchtower.
Well, especially since she's such a toxic individual.
Yeah, she can be very toxic. But for me personally, there was not a risk leaving this organization for my own sanity. And I think Kim probably shares the same thing. I know you and your mother were a lot closer than my mother and I were. But at the same time, you have to remember, this is ultimately still their choice. They will have to pay the consequences. And the consequences is as much as you may want to talk to your family members, they may want to talk to you is equally as much. But this religion, this publishing company, has got their heads in a noose. So never forget, as one wise person told me, that these people that you may be leaving behind one day may not be today, may not be next week, and it may not even be next year, but one day your family members will need you to be there for them, especially when you hear talks like this. Because if this organization closes its doors, this publishing company quits, your indoctrinated family members will have no choice but to seek you out. And what happened? What happened?
They will be traumatized.
It's inevitable.
Yes. And I just want to say, that thanks to all of you, Mike and I are so grateful and so honored to be part of this, incredible, thing going on right now. I mean, this is just, fantastic news. And I didn't sleep too well last night because I had heard this talk last night, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, because to us, in our ears,
it was big.
This was just the next step before drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really scary. But at the same time, Kim and I can also see that this publishing company is absolutely committing suicide, because they have hidden the child sexual abuse, and they're getting their asses sued across the world, not by the tune of $1 million, $2 million, by the hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, I was going to say, JW Podcast just did a podcast show, and they are doing an update on the Canadian lawsuit. So you might want to go give that a listen, because that is going to be a $66 million lawsuit. And any of you in Canada who were abused can join this. You can go to jwvictims.org, and Alexandra James has, you can click on to get the form to be part of this class action suit, for those abused. But going back to JWFAC's website here, there's a couple of sentences that I want to read that Paul wrote. Once you know what the important areas are for the person you are talking to, you will be able to research and then respond to those areas. At the same time, attempt to determine what doubts or disappointments they have with the organization, as these are topics to build upon.
Yeah.
And that's always good advice. That's what we always tell somebody. Listen, let the person, let the JW talk, and see what they're disgruntled about.
And quite honestly, this is no different than the technique that Watchtower taught all of us when we were forced to go from door to door preaching the good news of the kingdom. Because, see, Watchtower has taught us as publishers that when you walk up to a house, be observant. Do they have a nice flower bed? So that would indicate that, well, they like gardening. Is there toys in the yard? That would indicate they have children. And then you could wiggle your way in to this person's heart by making a personal connection about how beautiful their garden is, and how old are your kids. These are all techniques that we were taught.
Or do they look upset? They may have just lost a loved one.
Did I catch you at a bad time? Be observant. Well, this is all we're doing to you Jehovah's Witnesses, is that we're listening to what you have to say, and we are focusing on the things that you have become disgruntled with regarding this organization. But in reality, you yourselves have to identify that the conflict already exists inside you. You just have to break through that barrier of fear and be willing to talk about it, even if it means talking to ex-members.
Yeah.
Because trust me when I say, Watchtower, the ex-members have already got this figured out. We already know that this is nothing but a more modern day doomsday cult. In fact, it's been a doomsday cult since its inception. It's been a doomsday cult for over 100 years, and the reality is this world is destined to have another doomsday cult pull off another Jim Jones or Waco type thing. And many of us in the XJW community feel that it'll be the Watchtower and Bible Cult Society that actually does it. Now, how that happens, that's to be seen in the future. whether they go out by committing financial suicide, which they've already been doing this since the 50s and hiding the sexual child abuse. It was just a matter of time before this financial suicide catches up with them, and it has caught up with them.
Yeah. What's interesting is right now there's a movie getting ready to come out here in the United States, or a series, I don't remember which, about Waco, Texas.
Waco, Texas. Yeah.
You know, and that David Koresh, you know, the Branch Davidian cult. So.
And what's interesting in all of this, Jehovah's Witnesses, is that many of you who are fully indoctrinated will watch a movie like this, or watch Leah Remini's series on Scientology, but you refuse to make the connection to your own organization, and they're using the same mechanisms that these other cults have used. Jim Jones at the very end, oh brother, friends, you know, we got to do this because the government's coming after us. Well, this is exactly what Watchtower uses. In the time of the end, the government's going to turn on Babylon, the great religion, and we're going to be the last one standing. But you can't see what's happening through this YouTube community is that it very likely appears you're going to be the first to go, and it ain't going to be the government. It's going to be the fact that ex-members are exposing to the government what's been going on behind closed doors. That's the reality going on here.
Yes, exactly.
We kind of forgot this, and we remembered it while we were eating lunch and before we actually edited this particular video. But we want everybody to remember, and especially for those of you that are new, coming out of Watchtower, we want to show you just how deceptive this organization is. Those of you that have watched us for a while, you will recall what we're about to remind everybody of.
Yeah. Today is October 7th, 2017, the first day of Balloon Fiesta. And even though it's a beautiful thing, we all have to remember what was done to the Mira family.
Yes. You see, the Mira family bought a piece of property in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. And right next door to that property was a piece of property owned by the Watchtown Bible Tract Society. Now, before the Muirs decided to build in their property, they contacted the Jehovah's Witnesses in Rio Rancho and asked them if they were going to be building a Kingdom Hall, and if they were going to build a Kingdom Hall, would they block their view?
Where they were going to put the Kingdom Hall. Because the Mira's lot is kind of narrow, but it's long. And if they were going to put the Kingdom Hall up towards the road, then the Miras could move their house back to the back of their property, and they would still have their beautiful view of the Sandia Mountains.
Yes, and an absolutely good view of Balloon Fiesta. And we'll put in the description below the news reports and some of the other things
the
that
videos we
were involved with. But we want the non-Jehovah Witness that watches this video to completely understand and recognize that these Jehovah's Witnesses, as honest as they may appear to be knocking on your door come Saturday morning, these men are masters of deception. Because when you watch the news report, you will see that these Jehovah Witness elders had a handshake agreement with the Muirs not to block their view. And what did they do? They blocked their view.
And it was so deliberate that it is right in back, right even with their house, to block all of the windows. And they could have, when they first had this discussion, they said they were going to put it back further on their lot and would not block, Jim's view from his dining room window. And they outright lied.
They outright lied. And so, we feel the tragedy for the Muirs, and we don't want to forget, because ultimately this is evidence that the Watchtown Bible Tract Society, especially those that become elders, they are trained in this art of deception. And this is another classic example that they don't care about their neighbors. These are men without honor.
Yeah.
These are men without conviction.
So Elder Trevor Wiseman, you're despicable. And a beautiful day like today, where they have started Balloon Fiesta with the Mass Ascension, and you have ruined it for the Muras. You know, they can't even enjoy Balloon Fiesta. You know, poor Jim. He can't even, you know, enjoy anything except just looking at the mountains and Balloon Fiesta. And you ruined both of that for them. And I just want to say that, do you think this is a good witness in the town of Rio Rancho? No.
Not at all.
Even ones of the general public know what you did.
See, and for an organization that is so caring about the reproach that's brought on Jehovah's name or Jehovah's organization, look at the reproach that you yourself have brought. You despicable piece of...
Yeah. So like I said, we're going to put the links down below to the video series we have done with the murals. There's quite a bit of videos, because we've gone back a couple of times now to visit with them. And, you know, Randy and his family, been out there. And we're planning on going and seeing them again here pretty soon, because they only live about 7 or 8 miles now from where our kids have moved.
Yeah.
So we're planning on, you know, going out to visit them.
Yeah.
Now for some more breaking news.
This is interesting.
Yeah, we just had a phone call from someone who went to the annual meeting that just took place. And there's a couple of things that they let us know about, and we want to thank our source. Thank you so much for calling and letting us know.
Yeah.
It appears that there's going to be more downsizing and diminishing of the watchtower.
Just call it for what it is. Nobody gives a crap about their magazines no more. Just be blunt. Nobody cares, Watchtower.
I was trying to be nice. Their public edition of Watchtower that they give out to the public, at this point, is being published every other month. Guess what, guys? It's going down to 3 issues a year.
It's because nobody cares about reading your garbage, Watchtower. Nobody cares. But they still have this facade of being God's organization. See, they're just getting flooded with so much literature right now that there's just no more want.
Well, I was going to say, according to the clip we played earlier, if the preaching work is done, why didn't you just do away with all magazines?
Do away with it completely.
Yeah. And then something else is they are doing away with the simplified edition. So they're just going to have one edition now of the study Watchtower.
Yeah, and they're going to try to make it so that, so that everybody can understand. So, when Watchtower tries to come out and try to explain any more flip-flopping doctrines, any more, overlapping this and overlapping that, they're hoping that everybody will understand it in one magazine. I doubt that, because, really, they're not even watching JW broadcasts, so why would they... why would you expect Watchtower, your people, to be watching, to be reading your magazines now? I mean, let's just face the facts, Watchtower. Your magazines aren't being studied. All they do is they read the question, find the answer, and underline it. Then they put their hand up, and it appears like they've studied the Watchtower. I mean, that's what I did on occasion.
A lot of times that's what you did. Yes. So as we get more news about the annual meeting, we will let you all know. We have also heard these things are coming in faster than we can get this video edited.
Yeah. Yes.
But thank you so much, everybody, because we couldn't do this without you. I mean, my goodness, it's incredible to be part of this community.
Yes, it is.
But apparently there is a special meeting being called tomorrow morning, so we're going to see what we can find out about that, too. So just know that behind the scenes we are working to find out all this stuff so that we can get it out to you guys.
Yeah, and when we say tomorrow morning, we mean October 8th. 2017. Yeah. It just depends on when this video gets uploaded.
Yeah.
For them, tomorrow morning might be Monday, but for us, it's actually Sunday.
And if I can get this edited and uploaded before more stuff comes in, because it keeps getting longer and longer and longer.
Yes.
Back to our regularly scheduled video. So thank you for sticking with us through the whole thing.
And it looks like we need a new cardboard box.
Puppy had fun tearing up a box, and I just vacuumed my floor too. Puppies. But we love you all. Thank you so much for everything. And thank you for leaking us these recordings because, these are so important.
They're invaluable.
Yeah, exactly. And, if there's any way you can get family members to listen to these things, it would help.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for everything. Welcome to all our new subscribers. And we love you all and hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Bye.
Bye.